Today, we're diving into 12 games that critics didn't appreciate, but gamers absolutely love. These are the titles that might not have gotten the best reviews at launch, but over time, the players proved just how great they really are. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Quantum Break is easily one of the most underrated games of its generation. Critics were way too harsh on it, but gamers who actually gave it a chance saw just how unique and ambitious it was. Instead of appreciating how Remedy was pushing boundaries, they focused on nitpicking the structure. But that's exactly what made Quantum Break stand out. The way the live-action episodes connected to the choices you made in the game was something we hadn't really seen before. It gave more weight to our decisions and made the world feel more immersive. And let's talk about the gameplay. The time manipulation mechanics were insanely fun. Combat was stylish and satisfying. It wasn't just another cover-based shooter. It had personality, something critics completely overlook. Remedy always excels in storytelling, and Quantum Break was no exception. Yet, despite all these strengths, it got slammed with mediocre reviews, because it wasn't what they expected. It didn't fit into a simple category, so instead of embracing something fresh, they criticized it. But ask the gamers who played it, and you'll hear a completely different story. Those who experienced it firsthand know how much passion went into it. Quantum Break may not have been perfect, but it was bold, unique, and ahead of its time. Critics got it wrong, but gamers saw its brilliance. If you've never played it, do yourself a favor and give it a shot. The Order 1886 is the perfect example of a game that deserved better. Critics tore it apart for being too short and too cinematic, but gamers who actually played it know the truth. It was an absolute masterpiece in terms of atmosphere, world building, and storytelling. Right from the opening scene, the game pulls you into its stunning vision of an alternate history Victorian London. The level of detail in the environments, the character designs, and even the smallest textures were jaw-dropping. This wasn't just another action game, it felt like stepping into a living, breathing world, creating one of the most visually impressive games of its time. And yet, critics focused on all the wrong things. They complained that it was too linear. The Order 1886 was designed to be an immersive, cinematic experience, telling a focused story with incredible production values. It didn't need unnecessary padding to be great. The game was clearly setting up a larger story. It ended in a way that hinted at so much more to come, yet thanks to the unfairly harsh reception, we never got a sequel. Thankfully, gamers still recognize its brilliance. Sure, it wasn't the longest game, but what it delivered was a gripping, cinematic adventure with an unforgettable world, one that still holds up today. It's a gem that deserved way more love than it got. Ryse: Son of Rome is one of those games that didn't try to reinvent the wheel, but what it did well. Critics were quick to tear it down for being repetitive and too focused on visuals, but for those of us who played it, it was a solid, enjoyable action game with some of the best graphics of its time. Every battle felt cinematic, with beautifully choreographed executions that made combat feel impactful. The gameplay was simple: hack, slash, block, repeat, but it was fun, and sometimes that's all a game needs to be. The story was engaging enough. It wasn't groundbreaking, but it did a good job of keeping players invested in Marius Titus and his journey. The blend of historical fiction and mythological elements gave it a unique atmosphere, and the performances were solid across the board. At the end of the day, Ryse: Son of Rome wasn't a masterpiece, but it didn't need to be. It was a visually stunning, fun action game that delivered exactly what it promised: a cinematic, brutal take on Roman warfare. Critics may not have been impressed, but for many gamers, it was a good time worth experiencing. If you're looking for a game with fantastic visuals, satisfying combat, and a bit of historical flavor, Ryse is still worth playing. The Evil Within was a bold attempt to bring back classic survival horror, and while it wasn't perfect, it delivered an intense and unforgettable experience. Critics had mixed reactions, calling it clunky and uneven, but for horror fans, it was exactly what we had been waiting for: something tense, brutal, and unapologetically old school. Right from the start, The Evil Within throws you into a nightmare. The atmosphere is pure horror, blending psychological terror with grotesque monsters and disturbing environments. The gameplay was a mix of stealth, action, and resource management. It wasn't as smooth as modern third-person shooters, but that was intentional. The clunky movement and limited ammo forced players to think carefully, adding to the tension. Every bullet mattered, every enemy encounter felt dangerous, and the game did a great job of making you feel vulnerable without being unfair. Critics may have been divided, but horror fans knew what they were getting: an intense, unsettling survival horror game that wasn't afraid to take risks. It may not have reached the heights of Resident Evil or Silent Hill, but it carved out its own place in the genre. If you love survival horror and haven't played The Evil Within, it's definitely worth a shot.
Seriously.
Come here, you bitch.
Remember Me is one of those games that had incredible ideas but never quite got the love it deserved. Critics gave it a lukewarm reception, calling it forgettable and criticizing its linearity, but for those who actually played it, it was a visually stunning and unique cyberpunk experience with an intriguing story and fresh gameplay mechanic. One of the biggest highlights of Remember Me was its setting. Neo Paris in 2084 was beautifully designed, blending futuristic technology with old-world European architecture. Then there was the memory remixing mechanic, easily the game's most original feature. The ability to manipulate a character's memories to alter their perception and change the course of events was a brilliant concept that wasn't used nearly enough. When these sequences happened, they were fascinating and made the game stand out from typical action-adventure titles. It's a shame we didn't get more of them throughout the game. Remember Me was a game with heart. It dared to be different, presenting a fresh sci-fi world with a unique concept that could have been expanded into something truly special. While critics didn't give it much love, many gamers who played it still remember it fondly. It may not have been perfect, but it was definitely worth experiencing. If you're into cyberpunk settings, and a game that tried something new, Remember Me is still worth checking out. Mad Max is one of the most underrated open-world games ever made, and thankfully, gamers are finally giving it the recognition it deserved. The game captures the essence of the Mad Max universe perfectly. The wasteland feels alive despite being a desolate, post-apocalyptic nightmare. From endless dunes to rusted-out strongholds, every inch of the map tells a story of survival and decay. The lighting, weather effects, and dynamic sandstorms make the world feel unpredictable and dangerous, just like it should. But what really makes Mad Max shine is the gameplay. Driving through the open world in the Magnum Opus, upgrading it with deadly weapons and armor, and engaging in high-speed car combat is some of the most satisfying gameplay ever. And when you step out of the car, the hand-to-hand combat is just as brutal. Whether you're customizing your car for high-speed chases or making Max a more efficient brawler, every upgrade matters. Then there's the story, simple but effective. Max is a lone survivor, just trying to make it in a ruthless world. The characters you meet along the way add personality to the adventure, and the final act is one of the most intense and unforgettable endings in an open-world game. At the time of release, Mad Max didn't get the attention it deserved, but over time, it has earned a loyal fanbase that recognizes just how incredible it really is. Watch Dogs may have had a rough start, but over time, more gamers have come to realize just how good it really was. While expectations were sky-high before release, what we actually got was an innovative open-world game that introduced a fresh take on the genre with its unique hacking mechanics and a beautifully crafted version of Chicago. Aiden Pierce had the entire city at his fingertip, hacking traffic lights to cause massive pileups, disabling enemy communications, overloading electrical grids to create distractions. Every encounter felt like a puzzle, with multiple ways to approach it. This level of interactivity made the world feel alive in a way that few open-world games had achieved before. And then there was Chicago itself, a stunningly detailed urban playground filled with life, secrets, and atmosphere. From the glowing city skyline to the rain-soaked streets and dark alleyways, Watch Dogs captured the essence of a modern metropolis. The random NPC encounters, with their backstories revealed through hacking, made it feel like every character in the city had a life of their own, adding to the immersion. The narrative explored themes of power, technology, and the consequences of unchecked surveillance, topics that feel even more relevant today. While some critics focused on what Watch Dogs wasn't, those who actually played it found an ambitious and engaging open-world game that did something different. Vampyr is one of those rare games that truly understands atmosphere. Critics were mixed on it when it launched, but for those who gave it a chance, it delivered an unforgettable experience. An RPG that blended deep storytelling, meaningful choices, and a hauntingly beautiful world set in the shadows of 1918 London. What made Vampyr stand out was its moral complexity. You played as Dr. Jonathan Reed, a man of science cursed with a supernatural hunger. The game constantly forced you to make difficult choices. Do you resist your thirst and struggle through a harder experience, or do you embrace the darkness? Every citizen had a backstory, relationships, and secrets, making every decision feel personal. Unlike most RPGs, where morality is often black and white, Vampyr thrived in the gray area. Then there was the world itself. London was beautifully crafted, with dimly lit streets, fog rolling through alleyways, and a city suffering under the weight of disease and death. Some games promise meaningful choices but barely deliver. Vampyr wasn't one of them. Every decision shaped the world, making each playthrough feel unique. The narrative, the morally gray choices, the deep world building, it all came together in a way that made Vampyr one of the most immersive RPGs in recent years. Steel Rising is one of those games that flew under the radar but absolutely deserves more recognition. While it didn't get the attention of bigger action RPGs, those who played it know, it delivered a fresh take on the Souls-like formula with a stunning setting, unique combat, and a hauntingly atmospheric world. Right from the start, Steel Rising sets itself apart with its alternate history take on the French Revolution. Instead of following a traditional historical narrative, it throws players into a world where King Louis XVI has unleashed a terrifying army of mechanical soldiers to crush the rebellion. The result is a dark, eerie version of 18th century Paris, filled with towering automatons, abandoned streets, and a sense of oppression that perfectly fits the Souls-like genre. The game's combat system takes inspiration from the best in the genre but adds its own unique spin with modular weapons and special abilities that make battles feel both strategic and satisfying. Unlockable tools and traversal mechanics make navigating Paris feel rewarding, opening up secret paths and hidden areas that add to the game's sense of discovery. If you're a fan of the genre or just looking for an action RPG with a unique twist, Steel Rising is absolutely worth playing.
Imagine being trapped in a dark room and there's no way out.
What truly sets Mafia 3 apart is its storytelling. This isn't just another open-world crime game. It's a deeply personal tale of revenge, betrayal, and racial injustice, told through a documentary-style narrative that makes every event feel weighty and real. Lincoln Clay isn't your typical protagonist. He's not just trying to build an empire for the sake of power. He's on a mission to dismantle the Italian mafia that betrayed him and take back control of New Bordeaux, one brutal step at a time. His story is raw, emotional, and filled with moments that stick with you long after the credits roll. This is one of the most atmospheric open worlds ever created, capturing the era's music, culture, and social tensions in a way few games dare to explore. It's a setting that isn't just a backdrop, it's part of the story, shaping the way you play and experience the world. Taking down the city's criminal empire piece by piece is incredibly satisfying, with a mix of brutal third-person combat, intense stealth, and tactical decision-making. Mafia 3 might not have been perfect, but it delivered something far more important, a bold, mature, and unforgettable experience. It's one of the most underrated open-world games out there, with a story that stands among the best in gaming. If you haven't played it yet, you're missing out on one of the most gripping crime sagas ever told. Prey is one of those rare games that completely pulls you into its world and never lets go. While it may not have gotten the hype it deserved at launch, it's a masterfully crafted sci-fi experience that blends immersive storytelling, deep gameplay mechanics, and an unforgettable atmosphere into something truly special. Every corridor, every lab, every crew quarters tells a story of the people who once lived there, before the Typhon escaped and turned the station into a nightmare. And those enemies? The Typhon are some of the most unsettling creatures in any game. The mimics, in particular, make for an incredibly tense experience, as they can disguise themselves as any object in the environment. Every coffee mug, every chair, every item around you could suddenly morph into an alien and lunge at you when you least expect it. Prey doesn't hold your hand, it lets you experiment, and that's what makes it so engaging. The narrative is just as strong, filled with mystery, moral choices, and philosophical questions about identity and what it means to be human. If you've never played it, you're missing out on one of the best sci-fi experiences in gaming. And trust me, it's a journey worth taking.
Going in after him. It's gonna be dark soon.
When does that ever stop me?
Finally, Days Gone. A game that was misunderstood at launch, overlooked by critics, but embraced by gamers who actually gave it a chance. What started as a seemingly typical open-world zombie game turned out to be so much more, a gripping, emotional, and deeply immersive experience that only got better the more time you spent in its world. At its core, Days Gone isn't just about surviving, it's about loss, redemption, and finding hope in a world that's fallen apart. You step into the boots of Deacon St. John, a drifter and former outlaw, trying to survive in a brutal, post-pandemic America while holding onto the belief that the love of his life, Sarah, might still be out there. And then there's the world itself, Oregon, reimagined as a stunning yet hostile open world filled with danger at every turn. Unlike traditional slow-moving zombies, these things are fast, unpredictable, and terrifying in numbers. The first time you encounter a massive horde is unforgettable, a heart-pounding experience where strategy, firepower, and pure adrenaline are your only lifelines. It may not have reinvented the genre, but it did something just as important. It gave us an unforgettable journey and a story worth experiencing. A game that proved itself not through reviews, but through the love of the players. And that, in the end, is what truly matters. If you made it to the end, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more. It really helps the channel. I'll see you in the next video.